You are listening to New Vision, Old Ways, the podcast that explores timeless wisdom for the modern mind in a fun, relaxed, and most important, interactive way with you, the listener. I am your host, Tony Marinaccio, and let's get the episode started. Welcome, everyone, to another great episode of the New Vision, Old Ways podcast. And as always, I am your host, Tony Marinaccio. And before I begin this episode, I want to thank all of you for listening. I know I do this every once in a while, but I truly appreciate all of you who take the time out of your day to listen to the show. It's, of course, a labor of love for me, and I will pledge to you that as 2025 rolls along, I want to take this show to a higher level, providing you with even greater content and pushing my own boundaries to make this show better than ever. I have some lofty goals, but as I have said in the past, I am up for the challenge, and I love to hear from you. And if you have anything you want me to discuss, please bring it to my attention. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. Remember, this show is for all of us, and I do it because I believe in living a better life and bringing as many people up with me as I can. So let's all live better, happier, more fulfilling lives. 2025 is going to be awesome, and I'm excited to shake it up a bit and get really creative, and I'd love to have you involved in that part too. Now, what do I have in store for you today? Well, I think it's, again, a subject I don't believe gets the attention in the mainstream as I and many others think it should. It's the unofficial study of dark psychology. Now that's high-end production, folks. It's essentially the art of mind manipulation. And I say unofficial because it is not a recognized branch of psychology yet, anyway, and I think it should be. But I realize that it is a difficult thing to prove that a mind was manipulated by another person or group of people, and to what level. But common sense would tell you that many people fall victim to it every day. And it can be in the form of a husband and wife, each using it to get the results they want, or it could be used in a completely different way to control a person or a group of people that use that control in a very dark and abusive way. I want to shed light on why some are easily manipulated and why some recognize it immediately and reject that manipulation right away. I want to share how we can guard against letting our minds be controlled by outside forces of any kind. It's about making sure our minds are strong enough, healthy enough, and confident enough that we can see through the forces of someone using dark psychology on us. So without further ado, let's get episode 29 started, understanding dark psychology and guarding against mind manipulation.
Have you ever known someone that seemed totally genuine? Your conversations were engaging, and you agreed on so much, but then it happened. While claiming to have your back, they violated your trust, and you learned that much of your relationship was a lie. Making matters worse, maybe even blamed yourself, wondering what you did wrong. Now, if this sounds familiar, then you and I have something in common. We've both been manipulated. And I bet those who don't think they've been manipulated probably don't realize it yet. In fact, as we speak, it is likely that someone, somewhere, is planning to manipulate you.
That was Daniel Jones, associate professor at the University of Nevada, setting the stage for what I will be digging into today. So when we hear a term like dark psychology, we may simply think of a therapy or the study of human behavior with a dark side to it. Oddly enough, it is not an official branch of psychology, but as I previously alluded to, common sense tells us that the manipulation of people has been going on since the beginning of time. While dark psychology is not an official field of study, Machiavellianism is. Machiavellianism is part of what is known in psychology as the dark triad. Along with narcissism and psychopathy, they form the basis for the study of manipulation, with Machiavellianism being center stage. It's the personality trait characterized by manipulation, deceit, amorality, ruthlessness, and a drive to do whatever is necessary to achieve their aim. Mind manipulation can come in many forms, from a playful couple using it to talk each other into what to have for dinner, or as in extreme cases when mind manipulation takes an awful dark turn, like with terrorist organizations, like the Nazi regime, like Jim Jones and the mass suicide of the People's Temple in Jonestown, Guyana. Mind manipulation can be as evil as evil gets. The Manson murders were another clear case of how dark psychology could be used to take wayward young people and turn them into cold-blooded killers. How does this happen? Why do so many fall into the trap? How about a spouse or a significant other that over time strips away their partner's ability to think for themselves, and they live every moment in fear that they may misstep or suffer some sort of consequence? We see mind control happening now in different forms. Social media and the internet in general are a breeding ground for manipulators. Young people get sucked into feeling that if they don't follow certain crowds, they will be shamed and bullied where everyone can see it. It happens all the time. It happened during COVID, where if you even questioned the mandates, you were made fun of or chastised on social media. How dare we question the fake number of deaths on the CNN counter, which we now know were incredibly misleading. Not only do we have the right to question events like COVID, it's our duty to make sure that we question mandates that force us to wear masks, take untested vaccines, shelter in place, shut businesses down, lose income. It's our duty to question why we were forced to accept our cities being burned down during COVID, with the agenda media calling them mostly peaceful protests. Some while the reporter was standing right in front of massive destruction and fires. I guess we didn't see what we actually saw, right? It's our duty to question anti-Israel protest on our university campuses and why it was allowed and why students had to fear for their own lives. It's also our duty to question a friend, a spouse, or significant other when we feel we are being manipulated and abused by them. But many times we don't even see that we are being manipulated until it's too late and we fell victim to it, possibly with dire consequences. Simply look at the year-by-year increase in suicides in America. According to the CDC, 49,000 people died by suicide in 2022. One death every 11 minutes. When our minds are in a weak state, we are so vulnerable to this manipulation. I know it's difficult for many to admit it, but all of us at one time or another, or at one level or another, have been a victim to it. But don't fear. Knowledge is power, and I want to shed light on how we can prepare ourselves mentally so that our minds are strong, confident, and powerful enough to not only be able to guard against someone using dark psychology on us, but if we did fall victim to it, how can we then put a stop to it before we are walking down our own dark path we never wanted to be on in the first place? The pressures in today's digital society are immense. It is so easy for people to, if they are passionate about a particular subject, to be so emotionally invested that they fall prey to anyone who appears to be on their side. And I say appears to be because that is where the manipulator can find their victims.
If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So if you're at a place in your life and you ain't happy with it, you have to change some things. But you have to make a conscientious decision that you're going to change. And it's not dependent on anybody else. It don't matter what your mama think. It don't matter what your coworkers think. It don't matter what your siblings think. It don't matter what your children think. It don't matter. They have nothing to do with it. This decision is yours and yours alone.
That was Steve Harvey. And the point he makes there is so very important and a big part of today's discussion, and that's mindset. I picked the dark psychology subject for many reasons. I have been very lucky in my life because I was raised by parents that were very good at making sure that I was mentally prepared for life by being reality-minded and present parents who taught me that physical strength is great, but mind strength is even more important. Being able to have a strong, healthy mindset and, as my father would half-jokingly say, always sleep with one eye open. His meaning of that was, don't live a life in fear, but always have a healthy skepticism about the world. Question what you don't understand, and if it feels wrong, it probably is. Unfortunately, many people do not grow up in the well-structured environment that I did. They were never taught how to deal with the struggles of everyday life. They find themselves buried in devices, and reality is to them more annoying than anything and easily avoided. But with that mindset, they become easy targets for someone to manipulate them and use them for whatever the manipulator's desire is. I could do so many episodes just on this subject alone, but I want to concentrate on what is happening in our country and our world right now. Using dark psychology is more of a weapon than any gun, tank, or rocket could ever be. We need to turn the tide on this, or we will lose many great minds to the evildoers, and further generations will suffer greatly because they were not given the proper guidance to be able to live their lives in a healthy, positive, and productive way. There is no better time in history to get, for lack of a better term, our shit together and reject the mind controllers and take our lives back and stop letting the weak get weaker. When discussing mind control, it's important to explore the different tactics used across the various levels of influence. I strongly feel that being able to recognize these tactics and guard against their intentions is key to how healthy and confident your mind really is. Being able to ward off the manipulators as early as possible is also key to not falling victim to the persuaders' endgame. I really don't like picking on the young people, even though I seem to do it a lot. I do feel that there are many great men and women out there that will do great things in life. But I think it's easy to see that there are also many struggling out there, and much of it is because of their upbringing. They have vulnerable and weak minds that are susceptible to having their minds controlled and going down dark paths and not realizing it until it's too late. And our digital world is certainly a big part of that. Social pressure and persuasion is and has been for quite a while a valuable tool for the manipulators. Peer pressure, now more specifically social media peer pressure, is at its peak. One of the most concerning aspects of social media manipulation is how it is used to prey on the young, weak minds by giving them a sense that if they do not go along with the crowd on this, they will be called out publicly and embarrassed. And with emotional health at an all-time low, they become easy targets. Social media has taken these bullying tactics to an entirely new level. Platforms like X, Facebook, TikTok have become battlegrounds for ideological influence, often exploiting people's emotions, fears, and biases to sway their opinions or to push a particular agenda. Even our once semi-trusted media have become ultra-agenda-driven to, as I've stated a number of times over the episodes, to divide and conquer, otherwise known in psychology as triangulation. In this case, using sophisticated algorithms to identify your preferences, which then can bombard you with highly personalized, emotionally charged content designed to manipulate you and remove your free will, and you only focus on your anger and emotions in order to sway you to believe whatever the manipulator wants you to believe. A few sub-tactics that are strongly related here is the use of isolation and the victim mentality. Isolation can occur because the manipulators try to cut you off from the support network. They might continuously suggest that your friends or family don't have your best interest at heart, creating doubt in your relationship so you become more dependent on the manipulator. A recent example of this is, of course, the 2024 presidential election. Many people that did not get the result they desired were convinced that if any family member or friend voted the opposite way, they were now their enemy, cutting ties with their closest people as some sort of retribution and penalty for disappointing them. Dark manipulators are experts at playing the victim or forcing people to feel that they are the victims when nothing bad has actually happened to them. Just a false perception of what's to come. Once you feel that you are the victim, you are more likely to lash out and blame others for your woes, when in reality, you are causing many of your own problems by giving in to the fear and anxiety over actual reality. The manipulator has done their job. They got what they wanted, but at the expense of their victim's life, emotional health, and overall well-being. And now the victims have lost their support system due to their actions, leaving them more alone than ever, and even more susceptible to being further manipulated. An endless cycle, a downward spiral. Never give in to the fear-based messaging and crisis amplification. Many social media accounts, especially those that focus on political or social issues, often use fear-based tactics to manipulate young minds into adapting a certain worldview or ideology. This can involve amplifying a perceived crisis, such as climate change, economic collapse, or political instability, to incite fear, stress, and a sense of helplessness, leaving people more easily swayed towards certain movements or ideas that claim to have a solution, but no solution is ever offered. In fact, a solution may never have been really the intention at all. Crisis amplification can be a very dangerous situation. It involves portraying a problem as being far more urgent or catastrophic than it actually is, or just plain inventing a crisis to keep people in a continuous state of fear. Sound familiar? Because it's used all the time. But we are onto it. Time to squash the fear-mongering and fight back with common sense and reality-based thinking. Two more tactics that manipulators love to use, and these seemingly go hand in hand, are gaslighting and guilt tripping. If someone is constantly making you doubt your own perception of reality or your memories, that's a classic sign of gaslighting. Remember what I mentioned earlier about the mostly peaceful protests of 2020, with media overtly attempting to have us believe that what we were seeing wasn't really happening? Gaslighting at its finest. That didn't really happen the way you remember it, or in that case, actually see it. It's an attempt to weaken your mind, and usually the guilt-tripping tactic falls right in line next. With your mind weakened, a manipulator will often use guilt to control others. For example, in interviews, BLM members clearly admitted to getting what they called white guilt money. The tactic worked well for them and their million-dollar mansions. Another guilt-tripping tactic can be sayings like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" This tactic makes you immediately feel responsible for the manipulator's emotions and may cause you to act against your own interests to make them happy. Dark psychology works by preying on basic human tendencies, like the desire to belong, feel loved, or avoid pain. These tactics often exploit insecurities and emotional vulnerabilities. If you are constantly being told you are not good enough or that others are always happier, there must be something wrong with you. You're more likely to fall prey to the manipulation. A key element to dark psychology is that it works more in the background, often without you even realizing it's happening. It's like someone pulling invisible strings, causing you to behave in ways that align with their desires, not your own. And it's, of course, not just in personal relationships. It's also pervasive in advertising, politics, and even the content you scroll through on your phone. History has shown us many times, and in the case of Adolf Hitler and the evil Nazis, those who control the media control the population. It's now easy to see why the German people fell victim to such a horrible ideology. But at the time, Hitler and his cronies were experts at the slow breakdown of an entire population's moral code. The Nazi ideology used isolation from external sources of information, leading to an intense emotional manipulation of an entire country, creating a devoted dependency on Adolf Hitler, leading to the breakdown of personal identity and the construction of a new dependent identity that aligns with the manipulator's views. Extreme psychological pressure and fear-based tactics were then easily used to keep everyone in line. The German people lost their sense of autonomy. They believed that the Nazi leader held all the answers, and they were willingly submitting to a worldview that was heavily controlled. The Nazi example is an extreme case, but look at the terrorist organizations around the world. They gather weak-minded, desperate people in droves by using the same tactics that Hitler used. Proclaim an enemy. You have to have an enemy, of course. Falsely blame that enemy for their troubles and give the members a reason to commit horrific acts based on that mind control. Again, it's a never-ending cycle and downward spiral for the people involved. The Hitler Nazi regime may be gone, but it lives on in the terrorist groups that prey on desperate-minded people who feel that they have no choice. As I stated at the beginning, dark psychology is everywhere. But we cannot live in fear of it. We have to learn to recognize it and make sure we stop it in its tracks. But as this podcast series has pointed out many times, unless our minds are healthy and we have a strong, confident mindset, we are going to have a difficult time recognizing it, or even worse, maybe not recognizing it at all and being sent down that terrible dark path we may not return from. If you have been a victim of the dark psychology tactics, you know what I'm talking about. So it's imperative that we all keep our minds as clear and healthy as we can. Use any and all of the concepts I have talked about in previous episodes to effectively design your mind to be that healthy powerhouse that it can be. Look at perfecting mind meditation. Listen to your inner voice. Use the Tao Te Ching and its ability to connect you to your inner self. Realize that if you have struggled with being led astray before, you can use your ability to retrain your mind using the concepts of neuroplasticity that I spoke about in detail in episodes 8 and 22. The key is getting your mind healthy, happy, strong, and confident. Then you will be able to start recognizing when dark psychology is being used on you. And then you will have the ability to reject it and not let it get inside you. You are in control of your mind, you alone. Let's not let anyone take that control away. Once we have that control back and we are seeing the world around us in a clearer sense, we can now use the tools we have to recognize when manipulators are trying to get to you. Your tools will be now to trust your intuition. Remember, you are smarter than you give yourself credit for. Listen to your inner voice. It will let you know when you are about to be or are being manipulated. When needed, set boundaries. Strong and clear boundaries are crucial when dealing with manipulators. Don't be afraid to say no or to walk away from situations that make you feel like something is wrong. Remember what I said earlier about one of my father's favorite sayings, sleep with one eye open? Again, meaning be aware. If it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. Manipulators thrive on people who lack strong boundaries. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power. The more you understand about how manipulation works, the more equipped you'll be to spot it early on. You'll also know what to do to protect yourself from falling victim to the dark psychology tactics. If you can, go back through many of the episodes I have done in the New Vision, Old Ways podcast. There are many ways you can learn to get healthy, strong, knowledgeable mind that can be ready for anything. That's the point of the entire podcast, being able to face whatever life throws at us, including manipulative people, groups, media, anything that is hell-bent on stealing your mind control away from you. I cannot stress this enough. Take care of your mental health. Manipulation can take a serious toll on your well-being. Make sure you are practicing self-care, seeking therapy or outside help if needed. Do not let your pride get in the way of asking for help. It's not worth losing your sanity when there are so many good and healthy places to go for help. Seeking an outside perspective can be very enlightening. Talking to a professional can give you an objective viewpoint, and they may be able to spot things that you cannot see because you are too emotionally involved. And if you are having feelings of hurting yourself or feeling like suicide is your solution, then dial 988 immediately. Get the help you need. It's okay to ask. Don't let anybody tell you differently. By recognizing the tactics used by manipulators and trusting your own judgment, you can protect yourself and keep your mind and emotions in a healthy place. The key is awareness and empowerment. No one should ever be in a situation where they feel controlled, exploited, or trapped. Trust yourself. Establish clear boundaries like I mentioned. Don't hesitate to seek support if you find yourself in a toxic situation. Having a healthy mind and awareness is the key to breaking free from the manipulation. We all have that power. Tap into it. It's in you. You just have to have the confidence that you can do it and never again let anyone or anything be used to manipulate you. Let this be a warning to all the manipulators out there, from individuals to the media of any kind. We are on to you. We are fighting back, and your tactics will not work. It's time to take the reins on your mind back and show them what the good guys are really made out of.
Today is a new beginning. When you wake up, remind yourself of this simple yet incredibly powerful truth. Today is a new beginning. No matter what has happened in the past, whether it was a failure, a setback, or even a victory, today offers a fresh start. Every morning is a blank canvas. You have the chance to choose how you want to show up in the world. The mistakes you made yesterday do not define who you are today. Your past is just that, past. It's important to release it, to let go of anything that weighs you down, because today you have the opportunity to rewrite your story. Every new day is an opportunity for growth, healing, and change. So, speak it out loud. Today is a new beginning, and I choose to make today better than yesterday.
So, what do you think about this or any of the episodes? I'd love to find out. And here is where to get a hold of the show and let us know. These are in the show notes, but as always, here they are. There is a new link that you can click on that will allow you to donate to the show and show your support. By donating what you can, it will allow me to book guests and cover costs. Anything will help. You can, of course, cancel at any time. You can also message the show from each episode on your various platforms. Just look for the send us a text message link, and you can shoot me a message that way. If that doesn't work for you, you can email us at newvisionoldways@gmail.com. Again, that's newvisionoldways@gmail.com. You can find us on what was Twitter, now X, at New Vision Old Way. Remember, there's no S on that one, at New Vision Old Way. And you can also check out the New Vision Old Ways YouTube channel. Type in New Vision, one word, Old Ways, one word, and please subscribe. It is free and will show support for the show, and it really means a lot and will help grow the show on YouTube. Find us on Facebook, same thing, New Vision, one word, Old Ways, one word podcast, and you should easily find us. And as a reminder, these are growing platforms for us and expanding all the time. So we need your help to get the flow going with the community. And last but not least, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to us, like us, follow us, leave us a review on whatever platform you found us on, that would be so appreciated. That will also help secure guests that we will be booking in the future. I hope you're enjoying season 3, and I truly hope that as the season rolls to a close here pretty soon and we start season 4 pretty soon, that there's going to be a bunch of surprises along the way. And I can't wait to get your input. I also can't wait until we get together for the next episode of New Vision, Old Ways. Until then, stay true to yourself, stay informed, and stay empowered.
But the most important thing is,
this episode and all of the episodes of the New Vision Old Ways podcast have been written, engineered, and produced by Tony Marinaccio and TKM Productions.